Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining the Give and Go podcast. Rolling right along with our postseason, we're going to get every coach, well, two second ones on today for who won sectional title, and this is back-to-back years for Shore Regional sectional winners. Back-to-back years making it to the Group One finals. Coach Wishart, who's been with Shore Regional since the 2016-2017 season. Played basketball at Ocean Township, correct?
Yep, yep.
And I just found out a chess player, which
I was.
explain which explains why his team is very well prepared and has good strategy against every opponent they come up against
I,
defensively and offensively. That kind it all adds up now.
Thank you guys for having
Well,
me. Yeah, I was. I don't know. I guess the teacher that ran it at the time, I just really liked, and Bobby Fischer. I guess that movie came out like a couple of years before that, and I was like, this seems fun. So
I love chess. But you know the old saying, you're playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. So
Yeah.
that's a good
well,
thing.
all the kids are playing it now more and more in
Yeah.
school. Like it's like a big thing that's going on. Like in my classes, like before class, after class, that's all they want to do is play chess. So I guess it's becoming pretty popular once again.
I mean, that's good. You really got to use your head.
Yeah.
Think ahead as well. I was never good at chess, so I was a checkers. I,
If they if they made chess pieces with soccer balls, would you concentrate on it a little more?
Oh
yes,
yeah. Oh
yes, yes. You two will laugh because Doug jokes all season about it, and I hear it all year long from Will about my soccer stuff. And I got a text message from a parent today because I retweeted two Howard girls committing. And the parent said, "I guess you already switched over from basketball to soccer that quickly."
yeah.
So, uh, no, we're still in basketball mode, at least until our all short teams come out. So,
For another week, and then you're back into
That's it.
soccer.
yes, yes. But first, congratulations, coach. You girls had, a great season, it's 2 seasons in a row, making to the finals. Obviously this year probably a little different going into preseason when you start your summer and fall programs, where your goal is, get back to Group One. That was probably your goal, which was probably different, from previous years.
Yeah, I mean this year it doesn't start like November. Like most teams, we start in July, and the message was clear. We had such a tremendous success at the end of last year, and we wanted to get back to that feeling. And so as a program, we moved forward with that. And I kept telling them the one thing being the hunter is a lot different than being the hunted. And we've never really experienced that, at least since I've been at Shore Regional, where we are now the favorites. Like even last year, like I said, we had a great success at the end of the year. There were still some great teams in Central Jersey Group One, South Hunterdon, Point Beach, et cetera, et cetera. And those teams had a great season, but they were picked ahead of us.
Mhm.
And then this year, being picked, especially in Central Jersey Group One, so there's a different feeling. There's expectations, and with expectations come pressure, and pressure's a good thing most of the times, as I try to tell them. But the kids really bought in. We had a great season all the way throughout. We hit a little low though, right after short conference tournament, but we were dealing with some injuries and some sicknesses. But at the same time, we started playing Jackson Memorial, who's a great team. And as we found out, they were the best team in Central Jersey Group 4.
Mhm.
And then Marlboro, Brad is, in my opinion, one of the better coaches. Obviously, he's got the banners at St. John Vianney, but he's one of the better coaches around at Marlboro. And then we started getting back on the right footing towards the end of the season. And then we went on that ride that got us all the way to Sunday before we bowed out to University.
You guys took a different route this year. Last year, you were in a tough division. Not that this year wasn't tough, but RBC
Mm-hmm.
and you guys. So that was a killer schedule just in your division. This year, they kind of balanced out the divisions, and you guys had to go out and find better competition to play. So can you talk a little bit about that, the different mentality of your scheduling this year?
Yeah, I mean, when we got asked because of the success and because of our roster that was coming back, having Riley and Reese especially, we got asked to play in a couple different showcases. So our first one was against Montville, who turned out to be one of the better teams in the state. They were, I believe, in the top 15 for 15 to 20 for throughout most of the season. We played a team from South Jersey, Clearview, who I know they finished probably 500, but if they were in the short conference, they would have been a top 15 team. And then we played probably, in my opinion, I mean, I know Zoe's awesome, but probably in my opinion, just watching her and going up against her, Devin Quigley from Manchester, and you saw they kind of got hot towards the end of the season when their players got comfortable in their role. And I remember talking to Nick, or I was talking to you after the game, and when we beat them, and it was like she went for 48. I'm like, I had no idea she went for 48. I knew she went for a lot, but and I said that was the toughest 48. And then we played some teams from the GMC, Old Bridge, who had a nice run in their section. Woodbridge, who Bobby Tominski does an amazing job with those kids every year, and Heightstown, who went on a run of their own in Central Jersey Group 4, and I believe they won their division in the CVC and got all the way to the finals before they bowed out to another champion in Ewing. So this year was a little bit different in terms of, we're trying to find challenging competition, like you said, outside of our division. I mean, Ocean obviously had a tremendous year. Mike does a great job. And before some injuries, Monmouth was having an amazing season. And then, like I said, they tailed off because of the injuries. But like I said, we were challenged, and nobody was going to take us lightly. I felt we weren't going to go find any cream puffs. Everybody wanted to take a chance at us. And it all comes down to PowerPoints. And they kind of saw us as a PowerPoint get, but luckily our girls came through more times than not.
Doug, you can keep going if you got more.
I always have questions.
Yeah.
Keep firing them away.
Can you talk about the development of your team and the ability this year to take some weight off of Riley's shoulders?
Yeah, I mean, Reese plays for the Fort AAU, so she was able to get a lot of games in between last year, the season ending, up into through the summer, which definitely helped her development. Plus, we played in a very competitive summer league over at the Fort with some of the best teams in the state: Rutgers Prep, St. John Vianney, St. Rose, RFH, et cetera, et cetera. So that helped Reese being able to handle that pressure in the summer because, again, like you said, our division changed. So I wanted to make sure that we were going to get matched up against some of the best outside of the season. Conley Smolikoff, who she's a junior, she started all last year, the last 2 years for us. She's a Division I lacrosse player. Going to Colgate 2 years from now to go play. Her development was huge. And then we had, two girls that played a lot last year. Antoinette Russo stepped up. I mean, she's not really a point getter yet. I mean, she can fill it, as Point Beach found out in the semifinals. And then Alana Martin, who's just the quintessential role player that you want. We were also blessed to have a girl, Ava Coyle, come onto our program this year, who I think shocked a little people last Sunday when she came off the bench in the second quarter and hit 2 bombs. She's been doing that for us all season, and she has that no fear. So the development of those girls really helped where Riley is. Riley can score, obviously. She put up the numbers. She's second all time in our school history, but she prefers to defer. And next year when she's at Rochester, they're going to be handing her the reins to be their primary ball handler to defer. So I felt like this was a good stepping stone for Riley for next year, and it as well gave other kids confidence to step up throughout the season.
And now, we saw that early in the season, and then she's such a team player, but it seems like at the right time she knows when to step up and take over. Is that something you have to kind of encourage her to do, or is that something that's instinctual for her?
I think at first it was something we had to encourage her to do, especially when she was a sophomore or junior. But as the season went along this year as a senior, she kind of knew when to pick her spots. The old saying that we had with Riley was, a bad shot by you is a good shot for short regional. So that was always our way of trying to give her confidence into, no matter what the moment is, we need you to step up. And one moment in particular was our Christmas final or holiday final against Heightstown. it was a battle. And in the fourth quarter, Riley went off. Same thing against the first time against Ocean. The fourth quarter, Riley really stepped up. But in certain games, Riley kind of saw like, all right, Reese is on fire, Ava's on fire, Conley's on fire. Let's defer. Let's get them going. And one particular, I think Conley talked about, or Riley talked about it in one of the post-game interviews, was Conley came up to her before one of the games, like, I'm feeling it tonight. And Riley made sure to get her the ball. And I think she had 15 points or 16 points in that state playoff game after that. So Riley knows. Riley took a good temperature of the room.
Now, with Riley graduating and this year her deferring so much, do you think the girls came out, the underclassmen came out with more confidence? Hey, Riley's gone next year, but we're still going to continue this run we're on.
Yeah, I mean, I think having this season, these last 2 seasons, and having 3 or 4 girls that have been on this run have really helped their confidence going forward, right? And having Riley's great, obviously, and she's going to be irreplaceable going forward next year. But we're not going to try to replace Riley's 18 points a game. We're going to try to replace the leadership, right? That sort of stuff is really what we're going to have to see. And I think we do have some girls. Antoinette Russo, like I said, she has really stepped up in that role as a junior. And with Riley leaving, I think that's going to open the door for her to continue that. Same thing with Conley, same thing with Reese, and same thing with Ava and other girls as well.
Yeah, when I spoke to Reese after your group final, one thing I asked her something that she could take away from playing with Riley last 2 years, and she said the leadership, how to be a leader and stuff, which that's the stuff people could see what they could do on the court, but that's the stuff you don't really see unless you're at the practices or in the huddle, them being those leaders.
Yeah, Riley, her first 3 years was kind of more of that silent leader. She was always like lead by example, and this year she actually became a lot more vocal, which was a new Riley for us. And you've seen it throughout the years. Riley is very quiet and keeps to herself, doesn't like posting anything on social media. But this past season in practice and games, I saw it more than ever. I remember one instance against Woodstown where Ava made a mistake or whatever the case may be, and she wrapped her arm right around Ava and was like, "It's okay. We need you." And that's the sort of stuff that doesn't get measured in stats or NJ.com or whatever. Those little things, and we always talk about. There's this great picture about UCLA, the kid, tipping his teammate's head up when he made a bad play. It was a picture it was viral on social media, and Riley was that demonstration of that player throughout many times this season of putting their arm around their kid and saying, "It's okay. Next possession, next play, next play."
You brought up her, being more vocal, and like you said, you really never saw any emotion, even if she scored 30 points a game or whatever. And then this year, you saw her kind of like a little swagger on the court, which I said, I wish we saw that the previous couple of years. It was fun to watch, but like you say, it was a totally different Riley than your first 3 years.
Yeah, like I said, I think just we talked about it before, the confidence that our girls had, all 5 or 6 that really played. I mean, we had some other girls that played, but we were kind of a 6-man rotation throughout this season. Riley, her confidence, I think when the other kids see her shoulders up, her, chest out a little bit, that's when you're going to start to see, all right, Riley's in it, we're in it. And it was a tight-knit group. And like I said, it's been a pleasure watching Riley grow from a young freshman to now this young adult. And I can't wait to see what the next 4 years has for her at Rochester.
It's awesome. So you guys, Group 1 final again, rematch against University. We know Riley wasn't at 100% last year when you played them. But what lessons did you take out of, to say the least, right? What lessons did you take out of last year's matchup that you tried to impart on the girls' game planning for this year's matchup?
Well, I think the big thing too, it started the game before. We had to go down to basically Philadelphia and play, and they knew they had a job to do. They knew they had to get on a bus for it was a 2-hour bus ride. We got there. They were very comfortable in the Deptford gym. We shot around for an hour because they have a huge back gym. It's bigger than most short conference front gyms. And then they took the court, and it was like we had been there before. And I think that shell shocked the team that we played a little bit. As you probably looked at the score in the first half, we kind of blitzed them a little bit, and then they settled down. I told the coach afterwards, I expect you to be back here next year, and your kids will use this experience. And then when we were getting ready for university, I said, guys, we played these guys before. We've been on this court. And I told them, I don't think we need to play 32 minutes of great basketball. We need to play 16 minutes of great basketball, sprinkled in with 10 minutes here, 5 minutes here. We just can't have those lulls. And outside of that first 4 or 5 minutes of that university game, we played them even. We beat them the rest of the game. Unfortunately, we gave up 11 points to start. But just their confidence in how we practiced and how we played going into it was huge and very important to what we were trying to accomplish. Even the day before, like I just remember the practice. I look back at my sheet, like you could tell like they were tense the year before because they had never been on that stage. I remember when we walked into, I still call it the Retaco Center. I don't know what RWJ now. That's how old I am. I'm a Retaco guy. When we walked in, they were like, "Oh my God." Whereas this year, they were like, "All right, where's the bathroom? Where's the locker room? Where are we shooting around before the game?" Like there was a lot more comfortability about this event, which again, we cut the deficit from 32-point loss to a 10-point loss. I think if we got to play them a third time, you'd see that gap close even more. Unfortunately, Riley graduated, Alana graduated, but maybe there'll be a third matchup next year.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Now that game, I think, I asked you, Riley fouling out. How disappointing and actually funny too. The only time in her career, in 4 years she fouls out. And there's a couple, questionable calls, obviously, and that play was a little bogus. But just the iron, Riley fouled out her last game when she had never fouled out before.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the way you want your last game to go. But to know that she battled through it. I mean, I remember the practice before. One of my assistant coaches asked me, "What are we going to do if Riley picks up a third foul?" So she plays. You have to play. I'm not going to have my senior leader sit on the bench her last game. We're going to battle through it. But just I think what really stood out to me about Riley, and I can go on for days about Riley, was she didn't sulk when she came out. I know she was upset. She went down the line, but I believe Reese hit a huge three to cut it to 9 or 8 with about 2.5 minutes to go, and she exploded out of her chair to start cheering the girls on. We called a timeout at one point, and she was the first one out there high-fiving all the kids. So that just shows you the type of kid she is. She wasn't sitting at the end of the bench, like I said, with her hands in her head. She was still very much into that game and very much believing that we could maybe pull it off, even with her on the bench.
What I loved about that was, after she fouled out, your kids kept fighting. They said, all right, she might be out and she's our leading scorer, but we're not going to give up. And you said reset that big three, and they got a couple, stops on defense, and that was good to see, because a lot of times when, a leader fouls out, it's like, oh crap, now what are we going to do? It's, we're getting close, but now she's out. But they didn't miss a beat, and I'm sure as a coach you really appreciated that.
That to me stuck out the most, and why I have some confidence. Why I do have confidence going into next season. It was, all right, next play. It wasn't like who's going to handle the ball. It was, we've been preparing for that. We do situations throughout the season in practice, in which we put us in down 5, down 3, up 4, down, whatever the case may be. And a few of them were Riley fouls out. All right, this is what we're going to do. This is plan A, B, and C. So as a coach, it really kind of showed that that team that we have, that confidence they have in one another, and like you said, they didn't quit, which is the number one thing as a head coach I want for my team, is to never quit no matter the situation, whatever the score is.
That's the chess right there. I know we talked about her a little bit, but just talk about Ava. No fear as a freshman, came in, she said it when I interviewed her after the game, I missed my first layup, then she was a little nervous. Then she said something, I knocked down the 3 and just, all my nerves went away. And then think I might have been sending a tweet out. I missed the second three, but Doug said it was a bomb. Just talk about freshman. First of all, what is she? 5 foot, 5'1", and she, all season, the first Ocean game, it was
Mhm.
her 3-pointer that started that run that gave your team the lead. Just talk about this. You've gotten to see her from when you started the season or started the summer program to now, just her progression in her first year.
That's the biggest thing about it. I think the most nervous Ava was throughout the whole season was being interviewed by you, Nick. I think that was the first time I saw her nervous. No, we knew going back to last year and watching her in middle school or in AAU, I knew there was something special about her. I mean, she shares the Coyle name, Shannon, obviously, her cousin or aunt. I don't really know the exact relation.
Niece. Niece.
Niece.
That's what
Niece.
because Shannon. I talked to Shannon after that game. Yeah.
She was a tremendous player, obviously. So basketball must run in the Coyle blood a little bit. But just watching Riley, Ava grow from that eighth grader to now. I mean, I know I said it to you after the game, but just the sky's the limit for the kid. She's a hard worker. She never lets the play before it affect the next play too much. I believe you talked about that Ocean game. I think she missed her first 4 or 5 shots, and you wouldn't have thought that with that one that went in from the corner right in front of our bench. And that's how it's been all season. And when she gets in the game is always different. That university game, she didn't get in until the second quarter. I believe the game before that, same thing. But then against Middlesex, she was in about 4 minutes into the game. It was kind of like, depending on the moment, or I ride the hot hand as much as possible. So the group had been doing pretty well at the 5, but she's always ready to go. And then the biggest thing that I saw was her not afraid to go at Riley at practice. Again, you mentioned the height difference, which there is one. But sometimes, with Riley, there is that, well, I don't want to go up against Riley. I don't want to get embarrassed. And that's a little bit of the culture that some of these kids have. She's not afraid. She will go and attack her and take it right at her, to the point where I remember one summer practice, Riley was like, who is this kid? But yeah, she was a great add to the program. And I think having this year is only going to set her up for success for the next 3.
Yeah, I mean, even the university, we talk about her shooting, but I think she had 2 quick steals too as soon as she entered the game. So both sides of the floor, and when I was talking to Shannon, she said she goes, one big difference. She goes, she plays defense, all right. It took me a few years, so like you said, the sky's the limit with Ava.
Yeah, when we played in that showcase down in Donovan, one of our game plans was to send one at Devin to start, and she was the first one. And she comes up to Devin's belly button basically, and she made Devin work. And then the same thing happened at university. We put her on who we think was their best player, Destiny Johnson, and she wasn't afraid. She frustrated her a lot in that first and most of the second half.
Yeah, she's a little gnat when you get her up there against the and you could see university was getting frustrated with her. Their guards are like, what's going on? This little kid's like picking our pocket. And listen, that's great though. I just have one more question. We talked about Reese's development from freshman to sophomore year. What's one major thing you think she needs to work on to take that next leap from sophomore to junior year?
I think on the court, her biggest thing will be handling the ball a lot more for us, just because she's kind of had Riley handling Riley got us into our offense about 75-80% of the time. So she's going to have to be able to do that. Having Ava will help. And I think attacking the rim, obviously, is something that she knows that she needs to. We practiced it a lot towards the end of the season, almost going into the lane like a football player and finish on like that. But then, as much as she will improve in that, I have no doubt. It's just more of now she's the face of the program. We've been pretty lucky about having a girl like Allie Reeser, who was on my first team. Then we go all the way through to Madison LaRosa, to Riley, and now it's Reese's turn. And so, she's going to have all eyes on her next season. And so being able to deal with the highs and lows, because teams are going to game plan to take her away. That was something that, Madison struggled a little bit with at first. Riley struggled a little bit at first. I remember talking to Riley being like, you're no longer a no name. You're a household name. So teams are going to come in. They're going to have different defensive coverages, ball screen coverages, what you do when you drive the ball versus what you don't. So Reese is going to have to deal with it. And I think she's up for the challenge. I really do. I think she's already asking me about what's the plan for the summer. I mean, I didn't even get one day, and she's asking me to meet up and talk about what we need to work on. So if she's already hungry and eager, ready to go, I mean, like I said this about Ava, but the sky's the limit for Reese too. And she's got 2 years, and it's great to see that she'll have to be able to make those mistakes, and then by the time she's a senior, it'll be like Riley, where it's just another game. It's another situation. Oh, I've already seen this. I've already seen this ball screen coverage. All right, I've already seen this switch coverage. So I'm excited to see it.
I want to just Antoinette Russo real quick. She had that career high, and I think we looked. It might have been the only time she hit double digits scoring. Do you think you could see more of that out of her? And what do you think got into her that game where she, 17, got 17 points? Because that's a big stage. Because that was a close game. Point Beach battled back, and without her, you kind of said it to me after you won your sectional. Without her in that game, you don't get to the sectional final.
Antoinette's always had it in her. She's kind of like a little bit of a Riley where she prefers to defer. The next day in practice, she kind of told me her favorite play in basketball to do is to look at the rim, attract another defender, and then make the one more pass. And for a 16, 17-year-old kid to say that, most kids would say, oh, I love shooting deep or I love, attacking. For her to be aware that, that's something I really enjoy and that's my best attribute. I mean, you dream to coach kids like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think, she's always kind of, as a freshman, she was behind Madison and Riley. This past 2 years, Reese and Riley, but I think she's ready to explode on the scene, and she puts the work in. She's not an AAU kid. She does some here and there, but she's someone that's willing to go in the gym by herself and work on her craft with one of her trainers or one of the guys in the off season. She puts in countless hours that people don't see because, again, she's not a social media person. She's kind of wants to keep to herself, and she wants all the spotlight to be on the team. And that's something that I can really get behind. And I just know that the Point Beach game isn't just going to be a one-time deal for her. I'm excited to see what she does next year.
You got any more? I got
just a comment that I think in this age of social media, having your kids quiet on social media is probably a huge help to you.
Yeah, you don't want those people out there tweeting too much, or especially at the wrong people. So, I think keeping that internal is what we've tried to do as a program. Keep everything in house. We share with ourselves. We share with each other their accolades and stuff like that. Anytime they're up for Player of the Week, or we did like a belt thing this year and a chain thing this year, which is great. But at the end of the day, I think these kids, they just want to put a number on a banner, and that's all I can ask for. Is just we want to keep putting next year we want to put a 24 next to the 23 and 22 that we put up the last 2 years.
Listen, if you have kids with that mentality, that your program is going to be strong for years to come.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Me and Doug, we were at every state final game, and besides New Providence student section, you sure had the biggest student section. The parents, not even probably parents, family, friends, the people from the town, just talk about the support, the last 2 years that, West Long Branch, they've shown up to, even going before that, when you played Rumson in the States a couple of years back, I think, right before COVID hit, you had a big turnout for that game. Just talk about, the buy-in from the town and the school and the community.
I think having that small town feel is tremendous. I didn't realize it because I didn't grow up obviously at Shore. I grew up a town next to it, a bigger town in Ocean. But a lot of these towns, a lot of these people that go to Shore Regional, they come back home, whether that's in Oceanport or Monmouth Beach or, like you said, West Long Branch. And then I think that plus we just have really likable kids. I think the student body really likes a kid like Riley. I mean, She's nice to everyone she's around. Same thing with our other senior, Alana Martin. She's just a really nice kid. We don't have troublemakers in our program. I can count on the number of, one hand, the times I've had to deal with, a teacher or an administrator talking about, and most of it's, they came in like a minute late or something that's just a typical high school kid. Like,
Yeah.
and I think those two things have really made this atmosphere really special. And then, the administration this past year, we got a new superintendent, Dr. Lisa English, and she has been instrumental in terms of promoting our program within the school and then outside the school. She's really behind the sports at Shore because she knows sports and education go hand in hand. A lot of the best athletes are double most of the time as your best students at school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think promoting athletics and education that she has really taken a kin to, I think Shore is going to be around for a really long time in both academics and athletics with someone like that in charge.
And I saw Nancy Williams at all your games this year too. So that's to have a legend like that in the building come back and support your program is pretty cool.
Yeah, she emailed me periodically throughout the year, and getting validation from someone like that is huge. It's a really nice honor that again, not a lot of people see because I'm not sharing my email, but she's constantly checking in on the girls and saying how great of a job that we're doing as a program.
It's really cool.
And she was one of the best coaches in the Shore for any sport.
Yeah, I'm only like 800 wins behind her. So,
that's
I got
come on. You got 40 years to catch up.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
All right. Doug, you have anything else?
No, that's it. Just congratulations on another great season and keep it going because, your teams are fun to watch. They're always well coached, well prepared, and it's nice as someone now that's an outsider can go and watch and appreciate that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you guys. Like I said, I have a young daughter who's about 2. I'm surprised she hasn't run into the room yet. We're kind of like forcing her downstairs. But just knowing that you guys have established this culture, right? We talk about cultures on teams, but you guys establishing this culture. If she plays sports, if she does, and whatever she decides to do, I hope that, and I know that you guys have laid the foundation for hopefully the coverage continues to grow, and it starts with you guys. So I appreciate everything you two have done these last few years.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I have somebody that will train her soccer if she wants. My niece wants to train, so.
All right.
Give
it another year.
I laugh at Nick, but my daughter plays college soccer and I love soccer, but I just like to bust his chops about it because it's like overboard.
Yeah. He loves it. He loves it.
Yeah. I think somebody in this turns off his alerts during soccer season on Twitter. I'm not going to say who, but yeah. But
give Shore Soccer some more love, and I'll definitely.
Yeah, I have to. They're they had a young team this year. They should be.
They will. They'll bounce back, I think. Next. Yeah. I mean, they still had a pretty decent year considering it was like a down year.
They had a strong finish to the year too. They start that, which is good. Young squad. So, all right, that's enough soccer talk. So, all right, well, Coach, thank you for taking time out, and congrats.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Hopefully we could get Dawn on next week, and that'll be all 3 sectional winners.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's an accomplishment.
Absolutely. Take care, Will.
Thank you.
Okay.